Awesome. So, g'day everyone. Great turnout, and welcome to today's webinar. I'm Jacob Lisinski from VentureCrowd, and I'm thrilled to be joined with Ash Hanger, the founder and CEO of Strip Supply, a remarkable health tech company that's transforming chronic disease management. Strip Supply is a patent-first, end-to-end diabetes care platform that brings together telehealth, education, and medication delivery into one seamless experience. The business is addressing one of the biggest challenges in healthcare, ensuring people living with diabetes can manage their condition conveniently, affordably, and with the right clinical support. Ash and her team have built a scalable technology platform and care model that was already driving strong patient outcomes and retention, with a vision to expand into adjacent chronic conditions. They've recently launched their capital raise with VentureCrowd, giving investors the opportunity to support a purpose-driven, high-growth company redefining the chronic care market. Now, Ash herself has an incredible background. She's not only an inspiring founder, but also someone deeply passionate about improving access to healthcare. Her journey from magazine editor to founding Strip Supply is in response to real gaps she saw in her relationship, is one that perfectly combines empathy and execution. Today we'll hear directly from Ash about the company's growth, its impact to date, and the exciting opportunities ahead as they scale their next phase through this raise. If any audience members have any questions or anything like that, please leave them in the comment box and we'll get to them throughout the presentation. But it's my pleasure to introduce Ash.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ash, founder and CEO of Strip Supply. Thank you, Jacob, for that very lovely introduction. So Strip Supply is Australia's only full-service direct-to-consumer diabetes care platform. And before I dive into exactly what Strip Supply is and how we came to be, I wanted to ask a question first. So how many of you know someone who's living with diabetes? Just raise your hand if you know of someone in your life who's living with diabetes. It might be type 1 or type 2 or gestational. Yeah, quite a few of you. So I'm not surprised. So 5% of people in Australia are living with diabetes. So I'm not surprised that most of us might know someone with diabetes. It is one of the fastest growing conditions across the world. I will dive into my presentation now because I think that's a good starting point, because over 9 years ago, I met someone who had been living with diabetes, and he'd been living with diabetes for over 30 years. And that was the first time in my life that I saw how up close and personal, how overwhelming and frustrating and exhausting managing diabetes is. Fast forward to 3 years ago, I set out to solve this persistent problem, to make life easier, safer, more connected for people living with diabetes. And now today, we've built a patient-first platform that unites pharmacy supply, telehealth, and education all in one seamless experience. We've already helped over 950 customers, and now we're ready to scale to the next level. So let me take you back to the problem that so many Australians are experiencing. Australia is in the middle of a diabetes care crisis. So over 1.2 million Australians are living with diabetes, but there's only 1,500 diabetes educators to support them clinically. This is causing a trickle-down effect of over 40% of patients missing appointments because access to care is so limited. And the products that these patients are using to keep themselves alive, they're really hard to get. Pharmacies often don't stock specialist diabetes products because they're not incentivized to do so. And this is making accessing tech difficult and time consuming. And the onus, it really is on the patient. And many people leave it too late to order their products in advance, and they do end up running out really frequently. These are just a handful of the barriers that are causing a $17.6 billion annual cost to our healthcare system in preventable complications. And even worse, it's costing patients their quality of life. But for me, this problem, it wasn't just about these statistics. It was really, really personal. I spent 7 years supporting my last partner who was living with diabetes, and I saw firsthand how difficult it was just to get his essentials, his insulin pump consumables, which is the plastic tube that connects somebody's body to their insulin pump, blood test strips, continuous glucose monitors, life-saving supplies. They could run out overnight, but they take days to be able to get your hands on. And it wasn't just my partner who was struggling with this problem. This problem is felt by hundreds of thousands of people, not just here in Australia, but across the world. And I couldn't believe how hard it was for people to have to fight for the care that that should just be a given. And Strip Supply is my answer to this. It's making getting access to care simple, accessible, and human again. So, Strip Supply is a complete tech enabled care platform that connects all the moving parts of diabetes management into one place that have previously been very separate. So, we've built a subscription based service where patients receive automated monthly deliveries of the essentials like CGMs, insulin pump supplies, and test strips. On top of that, our Learn platform provides on demand digital education to help patients manage every stage of their condition and also connects patients to each other who are experiencing similar challenges so they feel less alone. And this year, we've also launched our telehealth pilot with consults and micro care messaging, allowing patients to speak directly with clinicians, almost like a nurse in their pocket whenever they need it, instead of just when their next consult is scheduled. This is care that finally revolves around the patient, not the provider. Over the past 3 years since we've launched, we really have proven our product market fit. We have over 950 paying customers growing month on month. We are generating over $55,000 of monthly recurring revenue with solid retention. Our lifetime value is over 88 times our customer acquisition cost, proving that we really have found our ideal customer. And their path to conversion is fast and it's cost effective. We also have a 4.9-star customer rating, which is proof that we do genuinely transform people's lives. And 15% of our orders are currently servicing regional and rural Australia, where access to care is the hardest to find. So we're currently servicing people who are living with type 1 diabetes. This is a market of over 130,000 Australians. But by expanding our telehealth and prescription delivery, which we've just launched this year, we can unlock the broader diabetes population, which is 1.2 million people, representing a $3.7 billion annual market opportunity just in Australia alone. Beyond that, our platform can adapt for other chronic conditions like heart disease, asthma, and arthritis, which affects 1 in 2 Australians, so half of us. So, this really what we're building, it isn't just a diabetes company, it is the evolution of chronic care management. The platform that we've built can be duplicated and scaled across a multitude of chronic care conditions. Let's talk about what makes us so different. So, where other competitors focus on one element, a pharmacy, a telehealth app, or a supply website, we're the only brand that connects every touch point in chronic care management. Our ecosystem integrates supply chains, clinical data, and educational engagement in one seamless experience. Some of our competitors, and while we don't have direct competitors, some of our competitors can copy features, but things they can't replicate are the deep brand trust and loyalty that we've built directly with patients who have only experienced transactional clinical relationships in their journey so far. The comprehensive current patient data, which has been built over the past 3 years, and it's far more comprehensive than any other platform in Australia that collects this data in silos. Our integrated technology, which combines the total user experience and it adapts as fast as a customer needs change. And the clinical and supply partnerships that ensure consistent supply where other pharmacies are consistently falling short. Our model that we've built, it's defensible, it's patient loved, and it's difficult to replicate. Our team behind this brand blends lived experience and scale expertise. I bring a marketing background from scaling B2C brands for almost 15 years, while our dispensing pharmacist, Tamar, was the founding pharmacist at Kin Fertility under HealthTech giant Eucalyptus, and he really knows how to build regulated health platforms fast. We're also supported by a clinical advisory board of top diabetes specialists and a patient advisory committee that keeps every decision that we make for this business grounded in real patient needs. This mix of empathy and execution is why we really have succeeded where others haven't. So let's chat about the raise that we're currently doing, our seed raise. We're raising $500,000 at a $3 million pre-money valuation through VentureCrowd. And this raise is giving us a comfortable 18-month runway to grow our customer base by over 6 times to nearly 6,000 members. It's going to 10 times our monthly recurring revenue and will also comfortably reach profitability within the next 18 months. Here's our breakdown briefly of how we intend to deploy this funding, exactly where it's needed most. 11% will go straight into amplifying our proven growth engine, funding our customer acquisition strategy that we're currently using that we know works. 40% will develop and launch our proprietary Smartbox technology, so bringing telehealth and prescription medication delivery to the platform to be able to scale using all of the tests that we've proven in our pilot this year. And 49% will fund key hires to drive our clinical expansion into telehealth and prescribing medications. And both of these two milestones, they're going to drive up our gross profit margins, our customer growth, and also our revenue potential. So we've already captured over $900,000 in EOIs as part of our VentureCrowd raise, and we're also in due diligence with 3 angel syndicates to close this round as quickly as possible. The momentum for this round is real and it's growing day by day. Let's talk about the future really quickly. So in 18 months, Strip Supply will be the go-to model for diabetes management in Australia. But once we've embedded deeply in the diabetes journey, over the next 3 years, we'll duplicate our model across other chronic conditions, leveraging our existing infrastructure and our brand trust to launch into new conditions. Our long-term vision is a house of medical subscription platforms that are custom built for chronic care management, where patients can receive continuous, personalized, and preventative support. So, from diabetes to heart health and more, it all starts right here. So down to the ask, we really have validated every assumption. We've proven our economics and we're scaling a model that is transforming healthcare for good. We are raising $500,000 to grow a purpose-driven company, really redefining what healthcare can look like. It's a hybrid of compassion and industry-first technology. And this is your opportunity to join us, not just as investors, but as partners in changing the future of chronic care. We are so excited to build healthcare that finally works for the patient in their own life. Um, Now, I'm keen to really hear your initial thoughts and any questions that you have about this platform that we're building, about our brand, maybe how you can get involved in this round. So I'm happy to open up the floor to any questions that anyone might have.
Yeah, awesome. As those questions come through, I'll kind of moderate them. So chuck them in the bottom there and I'll get to them. Ash, that was awesome. I love what you're doing here. I really like the visual representation of the app and that platform going through too. That was really cool to see the vision.
Mm,
And yeah, I know that we have, and the first question kind of coming through here, I know that we've spoken a little bit about, the vision with your partner having diabetes and that journey that you went on. But I really
mm,
want to hear a little bit more about, the vision and the origin story. So kind of starting behind, that story behind Strip Supply and what
mm.
inspired you to build the company more focusing on, improving access and care for people living with chronic conditions like diabetes, but not just diabetes.
Yeah, I remember the moment that I thought of the idea for Strip Supply so clearly, and it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. My partner was changing his infusion set site, which needs to be changed every 3 days, and he had this large cardboard box of which he would throw his diabetes supplies into when he picked them up from the pharmacy, and this sat on the top of the cupboard, and he reached his hand into this box to get out his new infusion set and realized that the whole box was full of rubbish. And everyone has experienced this problem where you reach your hand in and you're like, oh, there's actually nothing in there. So we were driving around Brisbane at 11 p.m. at night trying to find a pharmacy that was not only open, but sold the very specific infusion set that he needed to be able to give himself insulin that night. And if you're not from Brisbane at 11 p.m., there's not a lot open. And diabetes supplies, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of varieties of these supplies. And that's really why pharmacies can't possibly stock them all at the same time based on what somebody needs. And you need a certain variety of products depending on, your age, what devices you're using to manage your diabetes, your body size, all these different things, which just end up having these hundreds of varieties. And that night, I remember driving around and, calling pharmacies, trying to find somewhere that was open. And I just remember turning to him and being like, "Oh, can't you just buy these online?" And he said, "No, you can't." And I remember thinking, it's the 21st century. We have a subscription for our toilet paper. Like, how do we not have an easier way for him to be purchasing life-saving medical supplies, products that he needs to literally keep himself alive? And so that's where the idea for Strip Supply really came from. And I was in a bunch of Facebook groups at the time to try and learn more about diabetes. And I was just seeing these posts about people with the same problems, like, "Hey guys, I'm in this area of Australia. I've run out of Medtronic Guardian sensors. My pharmacy can't get them in until next week. Does anyone have one that I can borrow?" And I just thought, okay, well, if all of these people are experiencing this problem, surely there's even more people who are experiencing it that aren't talking about it. And that's really where the vision came from. And at the time, I was getting my own medication delivered to me at home, my own prescription medication. And that was really where the idea for Stripped came from. And yeah, I remember thinking, like, it can't possibly be this hard. There has to be a better way.
Awesome. That's an excellent response. I'm just going to jump in here about this. On the screen here, you can see that there's a QR code if you wanted to find out further information via the VentureCrowd website on the raise.
Mhm.
But let's remove that for now, and we can come back to it if you haven't already scanned it. So I can kind of chat to you directly there.
Oh, yep.
Um, awesome. So second question coming through here, Ash. Now you've described Strip Supply as a patent first community,
Mhm.
not just a medical platform, right? So can you unpack what that means in practice and how your model differs from other digital health or telehealth platforms?
Yeah, sure. And diabetes, it's so complex, and our healthcare system is so complicated. So today, people living with diabetes, they have to juggle their care across so many different touch points. So they might see a GP, they see a diabetes specialist, an endocrinologist, an optometrist, a podiatrist. They're seeing all of these appointments that they have to schedule themselves, and then they need to source their own supplies through an NDSS partnered pharmacy. And none of these systems or people talk to each other right now. And that really puts a burden entirely on the patient to coordinate their own care. And this is on top of actually managing their diabetes, which is a full time job in itself. It is so incredible what someone with diabetes has to do every single day just to keep themselves alive. So, someone with diabetes is making an additional 180 decisions every single day. So, I'm sure you can imagine this kind of mental burden that this brings already, without having the onus to also manage your own clinical care on top of that. And so at Strip Supply, we've tried to take that burden away from patients. We've pulled all of their clinicians, all of their medical supplies, all of their pharmacy, all into one platform. So there's one login, there's one seamless experience. Patients can book telehealth appointments, they can get their medication and supply deliveries, they can access education that's in bite sized modules that's really easy to understand, to really replace the PDF handouts that clinicians are giving out at the moment to help explain diabetes, which I don't know about you, but I don't have the mental attention to read a PDF these days. Plus, we support our patients with a connected and supportive community inside our platform, and this is all in one single place. So our community, it's also both digital, but it's also human. So we have a podcast, we have peer groups, we have educational events, and we have personal care messaging. So people feel supported between appointments. Because there was a study that was done earlier this year that 80% of people's health outcomes actually happen in between consult appointments. So the time in between your clinical consults is so much more important than the 15 or the 30 minutes that you get with your doctor. And so that consistent support is really what drives better outcomes and higher engagement in people's own health, because patients are finally surrounded by care, they're not scattered across it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I told you about this, but one of my good friends got diagnosed with diabetes, and the big problem that he was facing is there's all this information and there's all of these different appointments, and it's very hard to keep track of. And
Mm,
on top of that, he had to educate myself and other friends, people living with him and around him, all about
mm.
what happens if something were to go wrong, or he was passed out or things like that. So the community is super, super important.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
yeah. So now you talked about it being kind of as in community onto that being the
Mm.
central to Strip Supply. What does that community look like, and how's it helped improve patient outcomes or engagement?
Mm, that's a great question. And honestly, our community is one of the things that I'm the most proud of, and that probably comes from my background in communication and in marketing. But at Strip Supply, we really do speak to people living with diabetes completely different from anyone else in the healthcare space. We talk to our community as people first, not as diabetics first. So we talk about real life. We talk about what is it like to manage your condition day to day? How does it affect your relationships, your mental health? How do you tell your friends about the fact that you've been diagnosed with diabetes? Your confidence, all the things that rarely get discussed in a clinical setting. Diabetes really does impact every aspect of your life, but no one's talking about the fact that you might start to get extremely self-conscious about wearing a piece of medical tech in public. How do you react when people ask you about, hey, what's that thing on your arm, which happens all the time? No one else was having these conversations before Strip Supply started. And because of that honesty and that authenticity and giving patients the space to be able to have these conversations, our content really resonates with people. And I know this because our content is shared constantly. We've generated millions of organic views across Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Some of our videos have 1.5 million views. And it's creating this incredible funnel of people discovering Strip Supply for the first time completely organically. Our engagement rate on this organic content is 3 times higher than Australia's leading diabetes organisation, which I think just shows that we've built one of the strongest diabetes communities in the country, and we haven't had to pay for that. And aside from being a funnel of bringing us new customers, it's also part of our defensibility strategy. People are more likely to purchase from a company that they have a parasocial relationship with or they trust. And we really have built that trust with this community online. People come to us for supplies and telehealth. But more than that, they come to us because they finally feel seen and they feel supported. And that emotional connection has created a brand that people genuinely love, and they love to engage with, and a community that keeps driving better engagement and outcomes over time.
Yeah, super, super exciting. Like a typically not very exciting or sexy field and things like that, but kind of
Exactly.
getting on the back of social media and things like TikTok to
Mm,
kind of break that traditional barrier, which I know is obviously super impactful in the younger communities, which is, I know, part of your target. Now to
mm.
another question more around money. How do you guys make money?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not something I touched on too much in the pitch. I wanted to give, a really high level summary of Strip Supply. But right now, the way that Strip Supply makes money is from our monthly subscription box. And we have a monthly membership fee that patients pay to be a part of our platform and to access our spectrum of services. So if we want to dive into those numbers a little bit, our typical order value is around $64, and that's made up of the cost of supplies plus that monthly membership fee and our shipping fees. And that's where we make the margins, is on our membership fees. And right now, 95% of our customers are living with type 1. And the kinds of products that we sell, they're products that are found on the NDSS, and that's the National Diabetes Subsidy Scheme. The legislation around selling these products is really strict and highly regulated. So the margins on these particular products are slim. But over the past 3 months, we've partnered with a diabetes clinic, Diabetes Complete Care in Queensland, to run our type 2 diabetes pilot, which we've been offering telehealth so people can see their clinicians online instead of having to fit into a schedule and go to an appointment and see someone in person around full-time working. And also delivering prescription medications like metformins. We've been doing that with a handful of patients across Australia for the past 3 months. And the success of this pilot has proven that we really can unlock this type 2 user base, which opens up the full spectrum of people with diabetes in Australia. And by launching prescription medications and telehealth into our core offering, we've forecast that over the next 18 months, we'll double our overall gross profit margins, really paving our way to being a profitable, sustainable business in just 18 months. So that's how Strip Supply currently makes money, is primarily from that recurring monthly membership fee, which unlocks our whole offering to patients.
Cool. I think this is an excellent segue into a little bit more about the market opportunity and the growth
Yeah.
potential here. So,
Mm.
can you give us a sense of the market size for the chronic condition management? I
Yeah.
mean, firstly around the diabetes, and then kind of broadly speaking, that'd be really,
Mm.
really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. So our immediate focus over the next 18 months is on the Australian market, and that's where we'll stay really laser focused. And that's mainly what I've chatted about today. So we're building out the full diabetes journey first, which in Australia is a database of over 1.2 million people. And then we'll be expanding that model across other chronic conditions like heart disease and asthma, where the care pathways are very similar. So people need ongoing management, education, and support. And 50% of the Australian population are currently living with some kind of chronic care condition. So you can imagine that market is huge. And once we've proven this model here and reached profitability, the international opportunities, but they become really exciting. Well, not exciting because unfortunately, chronic health is really in a crisis globally. 1 in 9 adults are living with diabetes all across the world, which is a huge population. And chronic disease management, it's also a universal challenge. So 3 in 4 people globally live with a chronic condition. And Australia's healthcare challenges, the problems that I've chatted about today with supply access and limits to clinical access, this is mirrored in other countries across the world, particularly in the UK, in Canada, in the US, huge markets like that. And so we're developing Strip Supply as a replicable digital infrastructure. So one platform that can be adapted to new markets through local licensing or strategic partnerships with health insurers and pharmacy networks. So while our next 3 years, we're really focusing on Australia and deepening and scaling our impact at home, the long-term plans absolutely could include modeling this globally, because diabetes and chronic conditions, they are managed the same way no matter where you live in the world.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I've got a question here from Chanel, and it's just a little bit more about the team. So
Mhm.
the question's around, what makes your team so special? I know you went through it a little bit earlier. And
Mm.
what unique skills or experience do they bring to tackling such a complex healthcare challenge?
Yeah, I really believe that no other diabetes brand in Australia has the same level of personal experience that we bring to our brands, and certainly no other organization that has the scale of services that we're offering has this level of personal experience. So most of our competitors, like pharmacy or diabetes specialized organizations or charities, they've never experienced this problem themselves. They really rely on listening to their customers, surveys, these secondhand experiences, while our strength is our experience being firsthand. So I've experienced the problem firsthand by being a support person and a carer of someone with type 1. And this has really deepened our understanding of this condition, the burden that it is on a patient, and also what a customer really needs. So that, in my opinion, is what makes our team so special. It really sets us up to excel in this industry and in a way that none of our competitors have ever been able to excel before.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you for explaining that. Now on to a little bit about traction and what's next for your team. So you've already built strong momentum in that patient acquisition and engagement, right? Can you share
Mm.
some of the key milestones you've hit so far and what's next in your growth roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a question I love answering because of my marketing background. Our growth plan is all about accelerating scale and deepening market penetration using the channels that we know have been driving the best results. So, following this raise, we'll invest directly into highly effective paid acquisition, especially across meta platforms like Facebook and Instagram, which have consistently delivered cost effective customer growth for us. We know that this strategy works. But there's also 2 other strategies that we use, and we'll really amplify those next year in particular. So we'll expand on our channel marketing footprint by partnering with more primary care clinics and diabetes specialists. We're currently partnered with 15 diabetes clinics across Australia who drive around 10% of our month on month acquisition. And we'll scale these clinics from 15 clinics up to 100 onboarded clinics over the next 18 months. And this shift from organic referrals to active clinic acquisition will unlock major growth that's even more cost effective than the paid marketing that we're currently doing. And on top of that, we also have some great partnerships with other organizations in the space. And we're looking to broaden our co-marketing and referral campaigns with suppliers and manufacturers, and also advocacy groups to boost our not only our reach, but also our credibility. So while gathering ongoing, customer feedback to continually optimize our messaging and our customer experience. So we currently work with Breakthrough T1D, who is formerly known as JDRF, and they're the largest diabetes charity in the world. And they really own the diagnosis space in Australia. We'll deepen our partnership with them to really unlock that diagnosis, that point of diagnosis for people with diabetes in Australia, so that people find out about Strip Supply from day one. We also work with manufacturers like Omnipod, who refer their patients to us. Obviously, for a manufacturer of diabetes technology, their main concern is that patients are having consistent access to their product, which they're not currently seeing in the traditional pharmacy model. So we'll double down on partnerships like that. And really expand the partners that we have in that space. And we know that this multi-pronged approach will supercharge our acquisition, it will build our credibility, and it will scale Strip Supply so much faster than the growth that we've seen so far.
Awesome. Well, great response. Now, one of my favorite questions to finish off here.
Yeah.
And I'll also ask you to share the last slide of that deck that you had too. So we've got that QR code there, but what is your long-term vision for the company overall? And do you have an exit plan?
Do I have an exit plan? Yes. I think every good founder has an exit plan. Absolutely. So we really see ourselves long term, in the next 5 to 7 years, being acquired by an organization or a pharmaceutical company who has a vested interest in this diabetes or chronic care space. So we've seen comparable businesses like Midnight Health in Queensland, who's a similar medication subscription model, being acquired by NIB. Companies in the US like PillPack was acquired by billions by Amazon, showing that these models really can win for chronic care, often disrupting pharmacy rather than the other way around. So we think that, these examples, they put us in a great position for attracting acquirers to exit, who we forecast will be a traditional competitor like a pharmacy giant, a health insurer, or a health organization that's embedded in the chronic care space and who's really interested in increasing the long-term health outcomes for people with diabetes and other chronic conditions. So that's our exit plan.
Awesome. That's fantastic. One of my favorite questions to ask as well. Now, look, that leaves us to the end of this session. Ash, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for presenting that. But yeah, if you bring up that PowerPoint, that screen, perfect. Okay, so everyone watching, if you scan the QR code there, it'll take you directly to the EOI page, the Strip Supply, where you can register your interest, take a look, request any additional information, ask any questions there as well. Additionally, if you have any other questions, shoot them through. You'll receive an email after the webinar as well. But yeah, Strip Supplies, they're live on VentureCrowd with the EOI, and you can find all the details there. And Ash, congratulations again on everything you've achieved so far. We're super excited to be with you, at least on this part of the journey, as you grow and scale this prolific mission. And everyone at home or at work or wherever you are, thank you for tuning in. And we'll have a chat to you next time. Enjoy. Thanks, Ash.
Thanks, Jacob.